G'day everyone, and great to have your company on Tassie Rules, the NTFA Footy Show for another week, and it is going to be a very, very big show coming up tonight. On the back of the AFL announcement last week, we're catching up with an absolute legend of Tasmanian football. Still has a great interest in the game. Robert Shaw is going to join us a little bit later on in the program. Stephen Wally from the East Coast Swans to talk about a very important historic game coming up at Pyengana a little bit later on in the show as well. So all of our regular segments, of course, the NTFA Footy Show brought to you by DLM Machinery. Our photo of the week this week, and they're going to take home a Crafty Cuts 4-pack with thanks to Little Rivers Brewing Company. Check out this photo. This was taken out at Westbury last weekend when the Meander Valley Suns took on the East Coast Swans. There is the ruck contest. We've got a bit of a pool of mud in the middle after the rains the day before, and the beautiful church in the background, the Holy Trinity Church in Westbury. A beautiful shot there from that game, and that is our winning photo sent into us by the East Coast Swans and getting that Crafty Cuts gift pack as well. We have got a very big show to get through. Make sure that you send in your footy photos from all the action this weekend, but we're off to a quick break. Stephen Wally will be our first guest coming up in a moment.
Durable, reliable, heavy duty. Get the power you need from the people who know machinery. For sales, parts, servicing and expert advice, call DLM Machinery today or visit dlmmachinery.com.au.
And welcome back. Time now to look at our club in focus for this week with thanks to Harrison Agents, of course. And this week it is the turn of the East Coast Swans on the Gold Coast of Tasmania, based down at St Helens. Stephen Wally is the president, and he's been good enough to come away from the beaches and join us here in Launceston. Good to see you again, Steve. Welcome. We've got a very significant weekend coming up, but great to have you on the show.
Fantastic, Rick. Looking forward to having the chat.
Now, speaking of what we've got coming up, we've got a little graphic here to give us an idea of what's coming up this weekend in spectacular Pyengana. Now, of course, we've got, it all kicks off pretty early in the morning at 10:30 a.m. We've got some Auskick reserves and, of course, then the seniors. We're honouring this year the Fingal District Football Association, which, of course, St Helens represented back and winning that last premiership in 92 before that folded. And, of course, Bridport, your opponent this weekend, back in the NTFA, which is fantastic, and representing the NEFU. And to paint the picture, Steve, let's have a look at these jumpers, because this is what the teams are going to be wearing. They are absolutely magnificent. So, of course, these St Kilda-like jumpers representing the NEFU, and have a look at yours. They're Pyengana 2023, the Fingal District Football Association. They look absolutely spectacular, aren't they? They've done a great job, these guys, to get them ready for the weekend. What's this going to mean to you guys?
Well, the whole day, Rick, is about recognising the incredible rich history of AFL footy in the far east and northeast. We've built significant relationships with the broader community through the vehicle of the Pyengana game. And we're always on the lookout as to who will recognise next. And for a couple of years now, we've just been thinking that, wow, that rich history has been representative at representative level footy of both the North Eastern Footy Union and the FA was certainly worthy of being included in this year's game.
Yeah, brilliant. We'll pop up those details again so everyone can see them. But and the video will paint the picture shortly as well. But the idea of this day, Stephen, I mean, enormous credit to you and the club, because tell us where the idea, I guess, originally came from, because this ties in well with obviously what we've got coming up this Saturday. Where did it all begin?
I can't claim much personal credit, Rick. Really, it was a vision of Michael Lefevre and his family. Generational family, dairy farmers in this beautiful valley setting. And well over a decade ago, Michael Lefevre went to our president at the time, Michael Richards, and they just floated the idea. Michael Richards as president was incredibly encouraging. And so that triggered a team of very dedicated, hardworking Pyengana locals to resurrect the ground, and it took them about 4 to 5 years to resurrect the oval that we now have hosted six of our heritage games. So very much a vision of Michael Lefevre and his family.
Yeah, it's a spectacular backdrop, isn't it? And the ground in magnificent condition, and it's going to be a wonderful day in a beautiful part of the northeast Tasmania there. Historic ground, historic town. I said I did my research, population of 96, and that's going to swell to quite a few hundred, I would imagine, on Saturday. But it's a great day, a great weekend for many as well, isn't it? Because a number of them take their swags there, and you've got plenty of entertainment coming up in the night as well for people to kick back.
So the footy oval sits inside the recreation ground, and there's substantial camping there. The facility is used for a range of community events. The population will grow into thousands, Rick. Somehow this game has just really captured people's imagination, and for some people it's what footy originally was about. It's as much about the social catch-up.
Yes.
With immediate friends and families, but some people that probably haven't seen for a long time, tell a few yarns, have a bit of fun, and enjoy the entertainment.
Indeed, and this year the theme is the Fingal District Football Association and the Northeast Football Union, which of course that sadly is no more either down the northeast. But of course we've got Bridport representing them, and looking at some of these amazing photos here of, I think this one might be the 1963 representative team from the FDFA, and I think we've got the 1958 one as well, and then the NEFU representative teams from, I think, the late 50s, and then 1980 rep team as well. I mean, it's amazing memories that we can bring back, and there we are, the NEFU from 1980. I guess on the field as well, when you look at the two sides, Bridport back in the NTFA this year, it should be a good game between both of your sides this weekend as well. People were looking forward to a good clash.
I think it's going to be a beauty. We're probably sitting fairly even. Probably depend a little bit on who's available on the day, because we know that impacts fairly significantly. But I think both clubs will be itching to get there, and it's going to be a fair contest, and hopefully a standard of footy that people will really enjoy watching.
Indeed. Now, the weather forecast is pretty good for the weekend. It wasn't looking great earlier in the week, but it's looking very good now for the weekend. So we really want to encourage as many people, if you're looking for something to do on the weekend, you want to witness something a little bit different, and also go back in time almost to the historical times and see these amazing jumpers, but in a great township like Pyengana, where we're going to have, as you say, a few thousand people there. It should be, you could do worse than head up there this weekend for a beautiful road trip. So hoping to see plenty of people up there, no doubt, of course. Just interested with the segment being, I guess, club in focus, Steve. St Helens joined the Fingal Association back in 45, along with Rossarden and Swansea at the time. You won the last ever premiership back in 92, beating St Mary's, apologies to the St Mary's supporters, but 87 points in that grand final as well. You're now known as the East Coast Swans. It seems pretty logical as to why you've gone down that path, but do you want to elaborate? Because it's not always easy to change club names, but I'm assuming it was more to encapsulate more of the region as well, rather than being known as a club that is just a town.
So after 92, we found ourselves joining the NEFU, and over the next few years, footy started to change in terms of the number of teams, and so gradually the teams that we used to play in the FDFA, Fingal, Avoca, St Mary's, Campbelltown, some of those sides ended up folding, and so gradually we as a club became aware that we might be the only surviving identity of senior football. And so our geographical range that we thought we had an opportunity to recruit from, but also to provide that volunteer opportunity and a pathway for our juniors. Some pretty visionary people at the time knew that we had to shift with the times, as all footy does need to do these days. And the notion or the concept of us being representative of the whole East Coast evolved changed the jumper design and brought in the orange colour. Caused a bit of angst with some of the traditional families on the coast, but we've worked through all of that. We always knew that as the club started to drop away, the other teams dropped away, that maybe our future was going to be based in Launceston or a competition much broader than the coast. And so that's what we actively started to work towards, and did a lot of work in the background to start to prepare our club for whatever might eventuate. And as the North Eastern Footy Union came to a demise, that's when we approached the NTFA. And 6 years on, footy on the coast is so different.
Yeah. Just finally, Steve, from me, we've got a couple of shots here of the East Coast Swans, but you talk about the juniors, but now you've got this pathway for the women and entering the competition in the NTFA Women's Division 1 for 2023. And there we see the side. I think that was just prior to their first ever match. That must have been a proud moment.
Sure was. We had a beautiful day for the first women's official roster game versus Georgetown down the coast there, and brought great excitement. We're a bit blown away with the number of people that actually came along. It was a standalone game. Yeah. We rounded up some of our under 10 girls, and they had a bit of a kick around prior to it, but it certainly has created an incredible interest. We know that the first year of startup for most women's teams, it comes with incredible challenge. Got a fantastic leadership team and a coach that's working incredibly hard. But I go to training on Thursday night, Rick, and we have our Oz kickers come onto the ground, some under 10s through to our junior side. Last Thursday, I was just watching our 28 under 14 girls.
28?
28 under 14 registered girls.
Wow.
And the week of the announcement of the AFL side, and I just thought, wow, we now actually have a pathway, and I can't wait. Might take a while. Hopefully, I'm still alive. That one day a young girl from the East Coast will crack through and be representing our state in that state side. And so, gradually putting all the jigsaw pieces together, have pathways for and a really inclusive club for everyone, and just creating an environment where people want to be, and for those who've got a little bit of talent, that they can actually see that they can make it right through to the highest level.
Brilliant. Great segue, because we're catching up with Robert Shaw a little bit later on in the show tonight as well on AFL, and I know that's something that we can all the young ones can aspire to. Now, look, great to catch up with you, Steve. Thank you. I know it's going to be a fantastic weekend, and thank you to Michael Lefevre and his vision. And thanks to you for what you're doing. I know you're very passionate about this as well. We hope it goes well. I know it will, and we hope for a big crowd, Steve. Great to see you again.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rick.
Pleasure. That's Steve Wiley, President of the East Coast Swans. Quick break with thanks to Cleanaway. We'll be back shortly with women's footy.
Durable, reliable, heavy duty. Get the power you need from the people who know machinery. For sales, parts, servicing and expert advice, call DLM Machinery today or visit dlmmachinery.com.au.
Welcome back. Time now to take a look at women's footy, review what's happened last week and also what is coming up this weekend with thanks to Cleanaway. Now, we're going to start off with the ladders and we take a look at the Women's Premier Division firstly, and we can see there that Bridgenorth, well, they made it 4 from 4 last weekend with a very comfortable 76-point victory over Launceston. Emily McKinnell starring for the Parrots with 7 goals, and the ladder showing now they're a win and percentage clear on top of the ladder from Old Scotch, who actually trailed at half-time against South Launceston, but a strong second half. They eventually got over the line of the Bulldogs by just 3 points. Now, in the other match, Scottsdale, Michaela Bingley celebrated her 100th match, but unfortunately for her side, they just couldn't get the win, going down to Old Launcestonians by 20 points at Invermay Park. So OL sitting third and South Launceston in 4th spot on the table. Let's take a look at what's coming up in round 4 this weekend of the NTFA W. It all gets underway on Friday night at Invermay Park, Old Launcestonians are going to take on South Launceston. That is at 7 p.m. Launceston at Windsor Park are going to be playing Scottsdale. That game at 10:25 a.m. Saturday morning. Launceston, good to see them improving last weekend in their match as well. And Old Scotch down at the NTCA ground are going to take on Bridgenorth. First versus second. This game should be an absolute beauty coming up this weekend. Round 4 of the NTFA Women's Premier Division. Let's have a look now at Women's Division 1. We'll take a look at the ladder as it stands right at the moment. And the Meander Valley Suns continue on their winning ways. They're sitting on top of the table with 3 wins, occupying top spot and clear of Deloraine in second. And Georgetown and Hillwood rounding out the top 4. Great win for Hillwood last week over Georgetown. That was last Sunday down at Hillwood. 34-point victory for the Sharks, and they move into 4th spot on the ladder as well. So as we have a look at what's coming up in round 4 this weekend of the NTFAW, a couple of games for us. Tomorrow night at Deloraine, the Kangaroos are taking on Hillwood. That is at 7 p.m. And then we have on Saturday, 10:55 a.m. out at Longford. The Longford Football Club are taking on Georgetown. Longford looking for their first win of 2023. Georgetown looking to rebound after their loss to Hillwood last weekend. It should be a very, very good game as well. Now we have a look at the MVP for the Women's Premier Division firstly, and we can see that Bridgenorth's Emily McKinnell, well, she has pulled away. She now leads by 5 votes from Maggie Cuthbertson, and also Jennifer Guy is rounding out the top 3. She is on 9 votes as well, but a nice handy lead there for Emily, and she picked up 6 votes last weekend in her great stellar performance in their win over Launceston. And we look at Women's Division 1. And no change at the top. Jodie Clifford from Georgetown, still 3 votes clear. She leads Georgie Rowley of Evandale. She's on 6 votes. And then in 3rd place, we've got Hannah Mitchell-Grimer. She remains 3rd from the Deloraine Football Club on 5 votes. And she's been joined by Hillwood's Ella Graham. Ella picking up some votes there, 5 votes last week in that win over Georgetown. So that rounds out the Bogues MVP in the NTFA Division 1 for women. And that is just about it for the women's for this weekend. It's going to be a great round of football, all kicking off tomorrow night in Division 1 and also the Women's Premier Division. Time for a quick break. We'll be back very shortly.
Durable, reliable, heavy duty. Get the power you need from the people who know machinery. For sales, parts, servicing and expert advice, call DLM Machinery today or visit dlmmachinery.com.au.
Welcome back to the NTFA Footy Show. Great to have your company on this Wednesday night. Now, a week ago today, it was one of the more exciting days of my sporting life being at North Hobart Oval to hear Gil McLachlan announce that Tasmania was going to gain the 19th licence into the AFL. And I know for our next guest, he would be over the moon still as well and jumping for joy. He played 51 games with the Essendon Football Club between 1974 and 81 after coming across from Sandy Bay, and also coached the famous Fitzroy Football Club and the Adelaide Crows from 1995 through to 96. And of course, who will ever forget, for people my age and some of those maybe a little bit younger as well, that famous day at North Hobart Oval in 1990 when Tasmania defeated Victoria. He was the coach of that team on that day. It is a great pleasure to welcome to the NTFA Footy Show, Robert Shaw. Robert, terrific to see you. Welcome to the show. Great to have you with us. And look, it's I know you do so much for football still in Tasmania. We'll get onto that shortly, but great to have you with us. Welcome.
And apologies for that sneeze just before you threw to me. Rick, well done. Thank you. And look, just a little side issue. Well done on the show. I watch it religiously. You feed it into our Facebook page, which is great. And also something's very, even though I'm a Sandy Bay boy, something very dear to my heart is the history of the game. And I thought the Scottsdale documentary you did and the interviews with those players was quite extraordinary. So hope we see more of that.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Yeah, we are going to hit the road shortly up the northwest coast, but hopefully we can do that a bit more. But really appreciate those lovely comments, Robert. Let's get on to North Hobart Oval, famous 33 years ago now. That's a long time ago. But last week, a very good and sensible decision to hold it there, because there's been plenty of politics going on around this AFL announcement, but to do it at the iconic North Hobart Oval. But how did that make you feel when you heard Gil McLachlan announce that Tasmania was going to get the 19th AFL licence? Because I think many people, and maybe yourself included, might have thought that we would never see this day.
Look, it was very interesting for me. It sort of was not as euphoric or as exciting as you may have thought. I obviously, over here in Melbourne, it's been received unbelievably. The understanding and the passion of what Tasmania means to the game of football since 1879 is well known over here. You would be extremely surprised how, I know it's adopt a second team, but the people that know their footy in West Australia, South Australia, Victoria, don't like what's happened in the northern states and the Gold Coast and the money going in there with Tasmania just sitting there as a foundation state. So it has been received extraordinarily well, and you must understand how popular we are in the scope of the development of the game. And I cannot stress that enough. And you did mention politics of North Hobart and all that sort of thing. We're a very political state. You know that. But it's based on, yes, it is based on parochialism and pride in the Northwest, pride in the North, pride in the South. But as you see on my Facebook page, I deliberately put those three jumpers up and the Tasmanian jumper to show once these communities unite and our towns unite, it will be a terrific force. And we've always united under the state jumper, not saying it will be the state jumper, but when Tasmania played football, I didn't know whether a bloke came from Devonport, Scottsdale, St Helens or Southport. Didn't mean much to them. No. They put on the famous map jumper.
Beautifully said. And we just showed those images of the TFL jumper, the NWFU, the NTFA, and of course the Tasmanian jumper as well. And you've sort of almost answered that question, but what do these jumpers represent to you? Because I know this is sort of your profile picture on your on the fantastic Tasmanian Australian football past players, officials and family Facebook page. But what do they represent?
They just represent our history and our strength. And people say, but our strength, our weakness is our actual strength. People say, oh, you can't get them to unite. No, you can't get them to unite on the football field. The rivalry was intense. It was magnificent, the TFL playing NTFA at York Park back in those days. Those days are well and truly gone, although, I'm not going to get into it now because I'm not qualified. The demise of the State League and maybe the, once again, community-based football in those three strong football communities might come to the fore. But it just meant... it just came out of COVID, and a lot of people were isolated. A lot of our past players were isolated. A lot of them were ageing, and it was a way of communicating, and it was a way of Tasmanian people keeping an eye out for each other, which sort of leads into that state jumper thing. So, we had people that couldn't locate people, as you know, Rick. We found people. We reconnected people from all over the state. People like Athol Hodgetts, the former Cooey full forward, did a wonderful piece on the 1970s side, and players were able to find each other again. So that was the theme of it. It's probably got, not out of control, but we've got 6,500 members, and it does get, 5% of it does get off track, because, Rick, I didn't want, if you want to bag umpires or bag Southern footy or whatever, go on another social media thing. Ours is, we've worked very, very hard to make this a Tasmanian thing and to be totally bipartisan, and that's the way we've done it, and it's worked very, very well.
Indeed, it is a great site. And just before I get onto the Tasmanian team, interestingly as well, next weekend, next Saturday, down at Devonport Oval, the NWFL, as it's known now as down the Northwest, are actually playing the NTFA in a representative game. So thoroughly looking forward to that down at Devonport Oval next week. So that should be a beauty. This Tasmanian AFL team, Robert, from your perspective, what's this going? What do you think, and what do you hope this will do for Tasmanian football?
Well, look, I don't know the politics of the regional stuff, but I'm a great believer in the theme. You know, if they build it, they will come. You know, I heard Eddie Maguire say quite poorly, I thought, on Footy Classified a couple of weeks ago. Oh, it's all right for Jack Riewoldt to say that. He lives in Melbourne. He lives in Melbourne. My answer to that is, where else do we have to go? Where can we go to play AFL? Every kid that I knew and generations before me had to leave home at 16.
Indeed.
And while it's a national comp, and our team won't be made up of all Tasmanians, it does give aspiration to young people to come back and play the game. If they get the setup right, they get the jumper right, they get the identity right, you cannot tell me there are kids all over Tasmania that will be tapping mum and dad on the shoulder, can you take me down to Auskick? Or you can take me back to my local club, right? I miss playing footy. I want to be, because everyone still has dreams. And that dream has moved onto our island. It's not across Bass Strait, or it's not at Fremantle, and it's not at Brisbane. It's actually in our state, that dream. So, and it also brings people back, I think, to, like, I would never, ever debate the Launceston people and the North Launceston people who are very disappointed about the demise of the State League. So I would always refer to them. But there's a little bonus of getting your own academies in your own area. And that is, as you know, if you play for Smithton and you want to go play for, say, the Burnie Hawks, it's a 5-hour drive to play Clarence at Bellreef.
Yes.
And that means that a kid doing his second year of his apprenticeship, a very, very good footballer, gets told by his boss, no, sorry, you can't have the day off. So he'll go back with respect and play for Yolla for a few dollars or something like that, or go and play for Bridport, or go out and play for St Helens instead of playing in a competition because of travel. So I see a small... People say there might be collateral damage. There could be collateral benefit here that we might drag the kid from East Devonport back to East Devonport to play footy, because he can now train Monday, Tuesday, Thursday at his local club, and he doesn't have to travel.
No, that's a great insight and a very, very good answer to that, because it is certainly going to be, I guess we see the young talent coming through as well, because not a lot of people, or people who may not follow the Tasmania Devils program, under 19 boys in a 19-team competition are actually on top of the ladder at the moment. They beat the GWS Giants by over 100 points a couple of weeks ago, and I think our girls are 4th or 5th.
Sorry, Rick, to jump in, but look at the funding that's been thrown into the academies at the GWS, and our local blokes pulled their pants down.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that can only, whatever that is now, will quadruple and double and get even better. And the coaches and that are doing a great job. And we're on top of the ladder. And people say, oh, where will the kids come from? Well, that's a very, very good window, but they don't know about that down there. So we'll keep it a secret until we run out the first game, and they'll go, where the hell did they get these blokes from? Well, they got them from Scottsdale and Smithton. They got a couple like Fagan down at Queensland. They got 2 from Huonville. Oh, where's Huonville? Oh, well, don't worry about it. We're not going to tell you.
They're all Tasmanian, isn't it? We've got to think as a whole. I know time is precious for you because you've got a very important football game to get to with your grandson shortly. But the Tasmanian jumper, we've seen on your Facebook page a lot of magnificent memories, and I'm going to pop one up here. The great Bobby Withers, he wore this jumper around about 60 years ago, and there our viewers can see the great Bobby Withers with that jumper there. what does that mean? Because I guess the other iconic picture we'll bring up shortly as well, which features you, Robert Shaw, is of course from 1990. But this jumper, what do you want to see from a jumper? Is that what you want to see? You want to see this the iconic map and colour kept?
I have changed out of respect to the history. Let's look at my two versions. Number one, I wanted that jumper. I wanted the history. That jumper was formed, or version of it, and the colours were adopted in a meeting in 1908. And we've kept the colours and the basic design for all that time. I would love to take that jumper it is one of the great jumpers.
It is.
Right? It is a football jumper. It is our state colours, and it is our team colours. I would love to take that on the road and for the Fremantle people to say, gee, have a look at this, and to show the pride in that jumper by taking it around Australia to play these teams.
Magnificent.
But I've thought long and hard about it, and I think providing that the identity stays the same, meaning the colours, that's nearly the first non-negotiable at the first board meeting. We will adopt the colours. They're our colours. The Tasmanian cricket team, who won 3 Shields, adopted it. The Jack Jumpers have got a version of the same colours, but I understand that the design can subtly change. And on Facebook, on Twitter, on all that, a lot of people are putting up designs. What I do not want, and would fight strongly with whatever power I have, is that our brand and our identity becomes Americanised. And you can't identify it. And we put colours there, and we put lightning bolts or birds of prey. You want your kids tapping mum on the shoulder and say, I like that jumper, that's our jumper, and go and buy that jumper. So whether we have a map in the left-hand corner, we have a version of the 79 State of Origin with the stripes down the side. I've seen a couple of outstanding designs by people. I've unfortunately seen some absolutely horrendous ones. But there were 2 that stood out to me that I've actually emailed and written to the Premier of Tasmania, because a couple of young blokes designed this jumper and I thought it was as good as I've seen. It moulds the modern with the old, and that's what you want with this team. You want people our age to look at it and say, that's our team, and you want kids from all over the state to fall into it. So there is a beautiful jumper out there somewhere. Am I sitting on the fence? Yes, I am, but quite rightly, because somewhere we can get this beautiful balance and we want to identify with it. The best jumpers are the Carlton jumper, simple. The Essendon jumper's just got a red sash, like the North Lights. That's all you need. You don't need, I don't know what GWS, grey, charcoal, I don't know what that is. I don't know what yellow and bright red I don't know what that means. But if you look at Essendon, that's Essendon. If you look at Glenorchy, that's Glenorchy. You know, and that's, we've got a great, I'm sorry to waffle on, we've got a great opportunity to be us. No one else, not copying, not from America. We have a great opportunity to be us. Original, identifiable, and iconic. And they're your 3 things. If you call it the Devils or the Thailand, it doesn't greatly worry me. But when I sit in the grandstand, when I'm in I'll just be in my 70s, watching this team, they run down the race and I want to say, yep, that's my team. Anyway.
Fantastic, that's simple, historic. You could throw that all in there. It's a wonderful insight and one that we greatly appreciate. Here's this. We've just popped up the photo of 1990, and there is that great jumper and the happy smiley faces, and you in the top left-hand corner. 33 years later, well, we've gone that next step, and we've got our own AFL team. So look, Robert Shaw, it's been amazing to catch up with you. I'd love to catch up with you again soon to chat more on this. But congratulations on what you've achieved in your own personal journey through VFL, AFL, but also for what you continue to contribute, because I know from afar you're still so passionate about Tasmanian football, and this site, will pop up some details on our Facebook page, is absolutely amazing because history should never be lost, and I don't think we are losing it down here, but the future is also looking fantastic. Great to have you with us, Robert Shaw. Hope your grandson goes well today. Hope he kicks a few and wins a game.
Thank you, Rick. It's been good luck with this show. It's fantastic, and thank you for inviting me on. And, let's get behind this, and because it can work. There's no doubt. See you, mate.
Good on you. Thank you very much. That's Robert Shaw. Wonderful to chat with him. A legend of Tasmanian football, done so much here in Tasmania, of course, through his own AFL coaching career. And he's really going to be one to continue to monitor very closely. His insights are fascinating. All right, it is now time to move on with the show as we get set to wrap it up, and we're going to have a look at the NTFA. Firstly, at the ladder. Now, have a look at this. Hillwood are now the only unbeaten side in the Premier Division. They are 5 from 5. And sitting there on top of the ladder on 20 points. And they are then a bit of a logjam. We've got 3 sides in Bracknell, Rochalee and Deloraine, all on 3 wins from their matches so far. Rochalee, the big mover this week, going into 3rd spot, courtesy of that terrific win over last year's premiers Longford up at Rochalee last week. So they jump into there. So very tight bottleneck there. We've got Longford sitting 5th. Just behind them is South Launceston on 8. So Georgetown, the only side yet to win a game. As we take a look at the matches coming up in round 6 this weekend of the Premier Division, they're all on Saturday at 2 p.m. Bracknell are at home after the bye. They take on Deloraine. Georgetown are at home to Bridgenorth, so Georgetown looking to try and win their first game of the season. Scottsdale take on Rochalee. That game at Scottsdale at 2 o'clock. And this should be a terrific game out at Longford. They take on South Launceston out at Longford. And the Country Tigers, the reigning premiers, looking to get back on the winners list. Hillwood this week have got the bye. That match is at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. All right, taking a look now, we'll turn our attention to Division 1. And Old Scotch and Perth sitting on top of the ladder, occupying the top 2 spots, separated by percentage. They are unbeaten, 4 from 4. Perth, really the massive improvers, didn't make finals last year. They've had a terrific start. St Pat's and Evandale then on 3 wins apiece. And Evandale, well, they're a real surprise packet. 3 from 4. Again, didn't feature heavily last year at the back end of the season, didn't make finals, and currently ahead of Lilydale, who are sitting in 5th place. The East Coast Swans, percentage out of the top 5. Old Launcestonians just on 1 win from 3. As we have a look at what's coming up this weekend in Men's Division 1, and we'll start off with Meander Valley at home. They are taking on Perth. Big task for them. Meander Valley are yet to win a game in season 2023. University of Tasmania take on OLs. As I mentioned, 1 win, 3 losses for Old Launcestonians. Are currently sitting 7th. Crucial game for them this week. St Pat's, they are taking on Evandale. Also a big game. That one will be 3rd and 4th respectively. And I might just mention for St Pat's, a couple of milestones. Dan Everett is going to play his 200th club match for St Pat's. Now joins his twin brother Tom as a 200 gamer. So good luck to Dan. And also, many would know Alex Russell, who played his first game as a 16-year-old with St Pat's before going across to the TSL. He'll play his 100th club game for St Pat's this weekend. And we wish Alex well also. And the final game of the round, up at Pyengana, as we talked to Steve a little bit earlier about the big day coming up there. East Coast are taking on Bridport and, also Old Scotch and Lilydale. This should be an absolute cracker. Scotch undefeated, Lilydale sitting 5th. That's at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. And now it just gives us enough time to finish off the show by having a look at the MVP with thanks to Bogues. We'll have a look firstly at the leaderboard. And this is at the end of round 5 in the men's Premier Division. And we can see that Josh Woolley is still leading the way from Bracknell, even though the club had the bye last week. He is a couple of votes clear of Jordan Cousins, who polled a couple of votes last week against Longford. So he moves into 2nd place there as well. And Jake Pearce, Hillwood coach, is 3rd on 11. And finally, in men's Division 1, well, we've got a couple of joint leaders now, as you can see on the leaderboard there. Trent Griffin Griggs and Old Scott from Lilydale and Old Scotch's John McKenzie, joint leaders now. They are on 13 votes. And, well, those two teams meet this weekend as well. So let's see how those two go, pitted against each other, and who will get the votes for that game as well. So that pretty much rounds it all off with our MVP for the week. And great to have your company. Hope you've enjoyed the show. A big show this week. Great to catch up with Robert Shaw and also Stephen Wally. Don't forget to send in your photos, and we look forward to seeing you next week on the NTFA Footy Show.